Today's video is brought to you by the subscribe button and the notification bell. Don't forget to click both of them down below. Hey, what's up guys? Joker here, and I hope you're all doing well. Today we've got a few news stories to get through in the world of tech. First up, NVIDIA has made a huge announcement at CES along with Asus announcing the very first 360 Hz monitors. They are going from 240 all the way up to 360 Hz. So if you're an esports gamer and that type of thing interests you, we'll get fired into all of the details that we have so far. And also AMD has continued to pick up some serious ground on Intel, who's really need to start watching their back in 2020 if they weren't already, as they now have over the top 10 slots of best-selling CPUs over on Amazon, and their stock prices are getting dangerously close to what Intel has. So, as you guys probably are aware, CES is going on. It kicked off today, I believe. This year, I decided not to attend the festivities of CES out in Las Vegas. I did go out the last 2 years. The first year that I went was a pretty big deal for me. But this year, I just decided not to go because it's just like, I just feel like everyone uploads the same content over and over and over again. And I can't say that I won't go back again, but it just didn't really seem that interesting to go this year, and yeah, I just decided not to, as I feel like I can cover this stuff from home. So we're going to get into the first CES story right now with the NVIDIA announcement of the 360 Hz monitors. As I mentioned at the start of the video, they did this in partnership along with Asus, so we haven't heard about any other 360 Hz monitors so far, and of course, I'm sure we'll see FreeSync monitors that will be rocking 360 Hz as well. I guess NVIDIA just got this exclusive partnership with Asus, so they can kind of break the news along with them. So obviously this is really going to be targeting esports players, as one of the main details we got about this, as you would expect, is that this is going to be bound specifically to 1080p monitors. Currently there is no DisplayPort or HDMI standard that could possibly push 360 Hz at, anything over 1080p. So that would be way off in the future, but I definitely have hopes for it at some time in the future. I'm sure we'll start to see 1440, 240 Hz monitors, and eventually even 4K 240 and even 360 Hz monitors, but that is likely several years away, as we're still right now still in the early stages of adopting DisplayPort 1.4, I should say, which is what is going to be rocking on these monitors here from Asus and other manufacturers as they start to make their announcements as well. But as you can see on the spec sheets for the Asus ROG Swift 360 Hz G-Sync monitor, which they are billing as the world's fastest esports display, it is 24.5 inches with 360 Hz refresh rate, G-Sync obviously, 16:9 display, and it does say it's going to be running on DisplayPort 1.4 and HDMI 2.0. Now, I'm not too sure if HDMI 2.0 will be able to do the 360 Hz, but you would definitely need DisplayPort if you wanted to take advantage of the G-Sync, which most people probably will. So if you're picking up one of these displays, more than likely you're going to be ready to play on DisplayPort anyway, and you'll probably need a pretty modern card if you're hoping to push anything towards like 360 FPS to fully leverage a 360 Hz display. But let's be honest, esports titles like Counter-Strike and Overwatch are not the most demanding of titles to run anyway, but I'm sure there are going to be a fair few people out there that will probably even go out and get something like a 2080 Ti or future Ampere high-end GPUs just so they can push the full 360 Hz capabilities of these monitors. So let me know down in the comments below, if this is something that you're actually excited about. For me personally, gaming at 4K 120 Hz is absolutely fine for me in terms of refresh rate. It's great. I don't feel like I need a much higher refresh rate than that. But, obviously once these become available for 4K at some point way down the road, I'll probably use one as well, but it's not something I really feel like I necessarily need. But for a lot of people out there, that's not necessarily the case, as I see it in the comments all the time. People are like, oh, I have a 2080 Ti and a 240 Hz 1080p monitor, because they just want to get that solid 240 for CSGO competitively, or Overwatch, or any other FPS title out there that's important to them, Call of Duty Modern Warfare now. So yeah, as I said, I look forward to seeing your guys' feedback on this down below. If this is something you're excited about, are you all on board for 360 Hz, or is this just 360 meh? Next up, I did want to quickly talk about AMD, who currently, as of the time we're recording this video on January 6, 2020, have the top 12 slots over on Amazon for the best-selling CPU processors, which is a long way coming from where we were just a few years ago before the first generation of Ryzen CPUs came out. You can see over on Amazon right now, the #1 bestseller is the Ryzen 5 2600, immediately followed by the 2700X, and then the 3950X 16-core 32-threaded CPU, which you can actually get for $750. And of course, we do have some other lower-end SKUs in there and older processors, even like the Ryzen 5 1600s are selling for $85. This is actually the new AF variant, which is basically roughly the same thing as a 2600 as it's running on 12 nanometer plus. That's why it's only got like 17 reviews. I did a video on this recently where they are basically sort of like repackaging the 2600s as 1600s, but they're probably also not binned as well, and they probably didn't really meet the criteria for the 2600s to be up at full spec, so that's probably why they're calling them 1600s still, even though it's different in the code name and everything. But they're still pretty good processor for $85, even if it can't do the same clock speeds consistently as the 2600. They're still a very good buy at $85. Absolutely insane that you can get something like that for $85. But yeah, out of the top 16 slots here, you can see there is only one Intel CPU in the entire thing. Even the number 13 slot is a motherboard bundle, or not a motherboard bundle, it's just a motherboard. Not sure why they listed just a motherboard here along with the CPUs. I thought it was a bundle initially. But the only Intel CPU here in the top 16 slots is the i5 9600K, and then after that we do have quite a few Intel variants, as you would expect, since pretty much every single Ryzen CPU to ever be released is in the top 16 slots, at least Ryzen 5, Ryzen 7, Ryzen 9, top 16 slots, almost entirely AMD, which is just mental compared to a few years ago. So obviously you would expect AMD stock prices actually to be doing pretty well, and they certainly are. If we look over here on Google, you can see that back in 2017, when the first generation of Ryzen CPUs came out, around the beginning of that year, they were trading for around $10, and the year before that, they were trading all the way down at $2. So if you bought AMD stock a year before Ryzen came out, you're going to be doing really well right now. And I'm glad that I did buy stock when I did, actually, in early 2017, as they have continued to only just skyrocket from there. As you can see, around the time when the Ryzen first gens came out, which I believe was March or April, looking at around $13 to $15 from there. And it has only gone up. With second gen Ryzen, you're looking at around $13, so not a huge jump. But then with third gen Ryzen, it just completely took off. This is now up at around, right now we are looking at $48.60. So just a few years ago, it was around $2. Now we're up at $48. Just absolute mental. That's 24 times improvement in their stock price in just a few years. I don't know if we've ever seen any other company have that type of lift in terms of their stock price. Now, how close are they to Intel? Well, currently they're trading at $48.76. Intel, $59.92, who has done pretty decent over recent years. Have they gone from $36 back in 2017 to trading at almost $60 right now? So they've almost doubled their stock price, but AMD has done it 24 times. They've gone up 24x over what they were doing back a few years ago. So yeah, to say that Intel needs to watch their back is a gross understatement, as if AMD continues on this current trajectory and continues to not only close the gap on Intel, but actually exceed them in the server space as well as in home PCs and laptops, I think Intel is in serious trouble of being taken over by AMD in the next few years if they don't get their house in order and start innovating, as they are trying to do right now. They're sort of trying to play catch up with AMD in terms of innovation, even though they are still technically faster per core than AMD. AMD has innovated massively with Ryzen. It has only continued to get better generation after generation, and being able to throw more cores into these processors without having to really raise their prices by too much anyway. And it's just been incredibly impressive what AMD has been capable of doing. And later on today, we're expecting to see some announcements out of CES. I don't really know exactly what they're going to be revealing, but if you look over on their YouTube page, I'll leave a link to this down below along with all of the other sources as well. But it's going to be live in 6 hours at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 2 p.m. Pacific Time. It'll be live for the AMD keynote from CES 2020 in Las Vegas, which I will definitely be tuning into, and I hope you guys do as well, as we'll probably be covering that in tomorrow's video. Maybe I'll even do a super cut of the whole thing, like I think I did last year, and people seem to really enjoy that. So I'll probably do one of those as well for you guys. If you don't want to watch the entire like 1 to 2 hour presentation, I'll probably do a cut down version somewhere between like 5 and 10 minutes, so you can just get the bulk of the stuff that you'd be interested in if you're a PC gamer. So let me know in the comments below if that's something you'd be interested in seeing. But if you enjoyed this video or learned something new, leave a thumbs up on it down below, subscribe if you're not already, and I'll see you all tomorrow for another video. Turn.